Speaklone, voice synthesis, and cloning for Mac. In this video, I'll show how I used a voice designer called Qwen-TTS to create a synthesized voice, and then clone it, all locally on my Mac. This is the whole workflow. Starting with Qwen Voice Designer, I'll share my prompts and explain what it can and can't do. In the second part, I'll show the trick of using specific sentences in the training, whether that's a synthetic voice out of Designer or recording your own voice. This will capture the voice's full accent, which will save as an audio file. In the third part, I'll use Qwen's voice cloner to generate long text-to-speech, like an audiobook or a podcast, where line-by-line consistency is most important. We'll go step by step, and I'll share examples along the way. I'm using Speaklone. It's a paid app for Mac and iPad, but the voice designer is only on the Mac version, along with the higher quality cloning model. I'll put a link in the description. I'm not sponsored, I paid for it. Part of Speaklone is free, but probably not the parts I'm showing here. Speaklone can be the real-time speech engine for other apps on your Mac, like chatbots where response speed is more important than quality. Speaklone is fast and streams the synthetic voices as they generate. But clones are slower to generate, at least slower to start, and for this one I am maximizing the quality with longer training samples. So each clip generates a bit slower, but the results are more reliable. The Qwen models are open weights, and this information translates to voice cloning in general and other apps that use Qwen text-to-speech specifically. I looked for production tips and how to make better voices, but I didn't find anything. So I'll share what I figured out and some pitfalls, but all of this is sourced through trial and error, so subscribe if that's relatable. A long time ago, when I paid for an 11 Labs subscription, I was super excited when they announced their voice designer, and when it finally came, I didn't use it because I didn't want to burn through my monthly tokens, leaving me guessing at how to prompt. I bring that up because that's exactly what I'm doing in Speaklone, typing random words to hear what works. It's a lot of exploring, but at least I'm not paying for every generation.
The rarest spice comes from the Far East. The roof should be tilted at a sharp slant because a smatter of French is worse than none. The mule trod the treadmill day and night.
Qwen's designer has some prompt controls. I found them in official docs online somewhere. But honestly, it seems limited. Even when it works, it's not always reliable. My strategy is to generate many and cherry-pick the result. When the prompt fails, you still get a voice, just not what you asked for. The model fails to some generic voices you might recognize from ads or YouTube videos. Eventually, you'll get an ear for when it's not working.
The rarest spice comes from the Far East. The roof should be tilted at a sharp slant because a smatter of French is worse than none. The mule trod the treadmill day and night.
So to rephrase and set your expectations low, the designer prompt is fragile. It understands some words which do change the audio quality, but there is no master list of the words the model might react to. Okay, let's get specific. What are the words Qwen understands? It knows male and female. You can add fast or slow, and there's a big difference in conversational versus podcast. They say it understands natural language, but don't get too creative. It doesn't have a big vocabulary. With short prompts, it was easier to figure out what's working. There seemed to be no prompt words for pitch control or age, but certain words I tried made the voices slower and deeper, so experiment, sultry, gravelly, monotone, and melodic work. That's some vocabulary to get you started.
The rarest spice comes from the Far East. The roof should be tilted at a sharp slant because a smatter of French is worse than none. The mule trod the treadmill day and night. The aim of the contest is to raise a great fund, so to send it now in large amounts is bad. There is a fine hard tang in salty air.
Emotion words work, and with two emotion words it seemed to transition from the first to the second. But fear and anger tend to end in shouting. Sad is just kind of slow. I'd say the engine doesn't really have the range for acting. It's more text-to-speech than generative AI. So it won't make weird character voices, but it'll make generic teenagers, spooky narrators, military voices, and a lot of anime helium voice girls. I'll let you guess how long it took me to roll this awesome baritone. Accents are extremely rare. I got 1 or 2 soft accents, but English voices speak American. I've read the Chinese voices also have limited accent, and there are no other supported languages, unfortunately. Some other issues to watch out for, especially later when we're generating our long training clips. Some generations will do a slow fade out. By the time it finishes, the voice is at half volume and low energy. Other clips will ramp up, almost screaming by the end, or the voice will go higher in pitch to anime levels and stay there. These are bad renders. They're not usable for cloning, so just generate another one. The next part I found online. Search for Harvard sentences. The full list is all over the internet. A couple of the sets are on Wikipedia. Each is 10 sentences that together make all the vocal sounds in English in the same ratio we use when speaking. There are 72 sets. Each is a group of 10 sentences. They don't mean anything. It's just about the sounds. If you're training your own voice or an actor's voice, these will help you capture the full accent and future-proof the voice because you can clone it again with another model. Qwen's cloning model recommends a 6 to 10 second voice sample, but that's more like the minimum. It will generate faster with a short sample. But when the sample doesn't have the full phonemes, the accent can drop. Some words will be oddly pronounced because the model fills in with default sounds. Qwen can take up to 30 seconds of source speech. That's the maximum context. And coincidentally, it takes about 30 seconds to speak a full Harvard set. All 10 sentences. Give or take a few seconds. At this point, you will just take an hour or an afternoon and plug Harvard sentences into the voice designer and save the good ones as you experiment. It's a lot like image generation, old school, where you're playing a random slot machine. When your prompts work, you'll notice the difference on the average. But individual voices are still mostly random, so there will be qualities you don't want, or it's just not the voice. But one voice in 10, the voice will be unusual. It'll have strong presence, resonance, gravitas, all the vocabulary words for good voices. These are the ones you want to save, so just export as WAV. Even if it's not the voice you're looking for, save any strong or unusual voices, you can sort them out later.
The rarest spice comes from the Far East. The roof should be tilted at a sharp slant because a smatter of French is worse than none.
What I listen for, I think it's about pacing or tempo, volume and microphone presence and prosody. That's how much the voice goes up and down. You'll want to explore at least 3 different voice types: fast and excited, casual conversation, and slow and close. The ones I thought would make expressive clones were actually just inconsistent. And it's really obvious when generating a few in a row. They start at different volumes, and the readings will jump in tone from clip to clip. The voices that made the best clones are the ones that I thought would sound flat and monotonous. I think the strategy is to clone a clean, neutral voice and allow the speech engine to do the inflections and emotions. Now that I've shown the designer and how to get the full phonemes packed into a single audio clip, let's move to the cloner because even with the same prompt, it's never the same voice twice. The designer model can be seed-locked, but it's generative, and the model creates a one-shot. If we need to get the same voice saying other words, we have to clone it.
The rarest spice comes from
The rarest spice comes from the far.
A saw is a tool used for making.
A saw is a tool used.
The show was a flop from the very start. The show was a flop from the very start.
The show was a flop from the very start.
The show was a flop from the very start.
I have a big folder of voices I generated. There's no real organization here. I just saved the ones I liked. Some of my clips are longer than 30 seconds, so in Audacity or any audio editor, I would trim out the gaps between the sentences. On some of these, I experimented with getting the voice to laugh or grunt or sigh right at the beginning, assuming that might influence how it talks.
Sweetie, those horses trotted around the field at a brisk pace.
Sweetie, those horses trotted around the field at a brisk pace.
Nah, baby. Those horses trotted around the field at a brisk pace.
Nah, baby. Those horses.
Nah, baby! Those horses trotted around the field at a brisk pace.
I need to edit that out, and I also want to trim away breaths and gaps between the sentences. This step is only necessary to get the audio clip under 30 seconds. Now let's set up the clone file in Speaklone. This part is actually easy. Speaklone does most of the work. At the bottom of the sidebar, click on the clone button to open the pop-up interface. Under Reference Audio, I click on Choose File and add the voice clip. For me, the transcription was automatic. It just worked. I think this is Apple's transcription? I'm not sure, but it's fast and accurate, especially on the synthetic voices. Still, you might check the text of the transcription because this is how the clone will map the phonemes. Strictly in Speaklone, we have options to describe the voice by gender and age and give it a name. These are just cosmetic. If you use Apple Intelligence, Speaklone will generate a character image for the thumbnail. Click on Clone Voice and wait for the short sample to play.
Hello, this is a test of the cloned voice.
And save. The new clone profile will be added to the bottom of the cloned list. The maximum length in the main window is probably around 1 minute, maybe 2, and Speaklone has a character limit. But the real test of the voice is when reading from longer text. Under the File menu, I'll open a new document window and paste in a long text to read. Speaklone has an AI analysis button that will separate the characters and narration into separate voices. I only have one speaker, so I'll hit the rejects and keep it simple. All of the text will be read by one voice. I'll open the drop-down menu and assign the new clone. At the bottom, a progress bar starts as Speaklone generates each voice clip and gives a running time of the full text. When it's done generating, hit play. The maximum length in the main window is probably around 1 minute, maybe 2, and Speaklone has a character limit. But the real test of the voice is when reading from longer text. If there are any mistakes or awkward phrases, the individual clips can be regenerated. The full audio can be exported as one long file or as the individual clips. That's the video. As always, I hope you had a learn. Give the video a like if you think it will help others, and subscribe for more like this one. I'll see you next time.